Welcome to this webinar today on the master plant medicines. This is hemp. Hemp can save the world. If you can hear me, please just write down and just message me that you can hear me and that everything is clear, and that you can everything is working okay. So if you could just message me very quickly to tell me that you can hear me, that would be great. So I'm just going to wait a little bit until everyone calms. Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Welcome, everybody. So glad that you can join me on my favorite topic, hemp. As some of you might know, I am a great hemp aficionado. I really, really love the plant. And you'll find that when people kind of start learning about her and understanding her and connecting with her, a love affair begins. So today I want to share some of my love affair with you, and give you an understanding about why hemp can save the world. So I'm just going to wait a few more minutes just to make sure that everyone can hear. And also I would really, really like you to ask any questions that you may have. So if you have any questions or anything's a bit unclear, please do write it in the messages. And what I'll do is I will answer any questions that you have regarding hemp or cannabis. I'd like to keep it ideally about hemp and not about smoking or about THC. That comes under cannabis medicine for the masses, where I'll be talking a lot more about the medicinal side of cannabis and the THC side. So this really is about hemp, about industrial hemp. So what is hemp? Well, hemp is part of cannabis sativa. It is part of the cannabis. It is the cannabis plant, but it has no, excuse me, 0.2% THC. So it does not contain the psychoactive compound or cannabinoid THC, and so it is used much more in an industrial way. And used much more in industry. So she is the plant for humanity in regards to the medicine that she gives, but also what she offers. And I'd like to start this webinar it was interesting. I decided to call the webinar "Hemp Can Save the World," and I was talking to a friend about it in Glastonbury, where I was selling my hemp products. Part of the cooperative. I'm part of a hemp cooperative, and we grow organic hemp in Reading. We grow for oil and for seed. And he said to me, "Why don't you call it Hemp Can Change the World?" And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, you know, hemp really can save the world. And it's very rare that you can find one thing that can actually really help save it. But really, cannabis, I feel, can really save the world for many, many, many reasons. And over this webinar, I will go through why I think hemp can save the world. But first of all, I'd like to share a few facts about hemp that maybe you don't know. So the first interesting fact is that hemp has always been a big part of our industry. In fact, we could potentially call this British Empire, the British Hempire, because the reason why we were able to colonize so many of the countries of the West Indies and the Caribbean and the Commonwealth was due to the hemp that we grew here in the UK. And why is that? Well, hemp helped to build the maritime industry. Canvas comes from the word cannabis because it's the only seafaring fabric. So they could make their sails out of hemp, and therefore had the sustainability to go and travel to the countries that were very far away. It also makes incredibly strong rope. It's as strong as steel. So it also helped with the rope. It also helped build the ships with the hemp because it's such a binding crop. So England built its force, its maritime force, on the hemp industry. And during the time of Henry VIII and Elizabeth I, it was illegal not to grow hemp. You had to grow 1/4 of an acre of hemp, and you could even pay your taxes with it. It was so valuable. And if you didn't grow, you were even fined for not growing. So hemp was in the 14th and 15th century, it was considered an incredibly important crop for industry and to expand the British Empire. And one of the reasons why we colonized Australia was because England saw Australia as being a hemp colony, and they sent all the prisoners out to Australia in the originals way to set it up as a hemp colony in order to produce a lot of hemp to support the English maritime industry. The Napoleonic Wars were fought over hemp between Russia and France and England, and it really was who controlled the hemp supply, controlled, the military, and controlled the navy, and controlled the power holdings. So hemp has been an incredibly important part of our history. It's also been wiped out of this history, so it wasn't known. Now, in the 1900s, it was incredibly labor intensive. The big problem with hemp is that it is incredibly labor intensive. So a lot of the black slaves not only worked in the cotton fields, they also actually worked in the hemp fields, because it takes a lot of manpower to ret the stalk. So if you're growing hemp, you're growing for two things. You're either growing for the fiber that comes from the stalk, or you're growing for the seed. Now, if you're going for the seed is nutritional, and it's highly nutritional, one of the most nutritional seeds on the planet. But we'll come back to that later. But if you're growing for fiber, you grow the plant grows about 5 meters tall, up to 5 meters, and so then you had to cut the hemp down, the stalk down, and then let it ret, which is kind of like a rotting process in the field before you could take the fibers off the stalk and turn them into material. And so this was incredibly labor intensive. And then in the 1920s, Schlichten designed a machine where you could turn the hemp you could cut it from the field and put it into what they called a decorticator. And it would come out as fiber. So what they said, that you could decorticate it from green, so you didn't have to ret it in the field for a few weeks. It could literally be cut off the stalk, put through the decorticator, and turned into materials. And this changed the way that hemp was looked at, because suddenly there was the machinery, the engineering to actually start utilizing the hemp in a much more economical way and efficient way. And in 1937, the Popular Mechanics magazine brought out an article called "Hemp: The $1 Billion Crop." At this time, most of the American political parties were like hemp farmers. George Washington was a hemp farmer. Thomas Jefferson was a hemp farmer. I mean, America was basically built on hemp. And Henry Ford was a hemp farmer, and he built the first car from hemp. And Rudolf Diesel was his best friend, and he built the diesel engine to run on hemp and peanut oil, never on fossil fuels. So you're seeing in the 1930s, 1920s, a big kind of shift into the engineering and industrialization of a potentially huge hemp economy, where you could start making all types of things from hemp. You can make cars, you can make bioplastics, you can biodiesel, and not only that, but we were coming really into a plant-based economy. And that's when it became political, and it became political mostly in America. And what happened was that a number of things happened. So the Bureau of Narcotics that was originally set up to stop to prohibit, to organize the prohibition of alcohol, was out of a job, because they no longer, alcohol had become legal again. And so suddenly the Bureau of Narcotics didn't have anything to work with. So they were out of a job. So a whole kind of organization within the American government needed to find something in order to give them a purpose. At the same time, there was a number of key political business figureheads that started to see hemp as a massive threat. And a major one was the head of DuPont, that was starting to look at manipulating the fossil fuels that they were finding in America, in order to manipulate those molecules to start making plastics out of fossil fuels. And so DuPont were very keen to move into the fossil fuel industry, which was just starting. And William Hearst, he also, he was a paper magnate, and he had just bought loads and loads of trees to promote his newspapers. And he saw hemp as a massive threat, because 1 acre of trees, 1 acre of hemp provides 4 times the amount of trees that paper makes. So if we turn to a hemp-based paper making industry, we just automatically stop cutting down trees, and then trees can do what they do, which is produce oxygen for us, and we could leave the trees to produce the oxygen and use the hemp for the paper. But William Hearst had obviously, employed and spent a lot of money on getting the trees, so he really was very keen to cut down the trees and start using trees for paper. And JP Morgan had bought into the copper industry, and he was also very, very keen to promote the copper industry. So at the same time as Tesla was coming out, so they all got together and they decided to demonize hemp, basically. And how they did that was at the time, hemp was also used as a medicine. Cannabis was being used as a medicine, and it was in the pharmacopoeia of America. And the American Medical Association, everyone just accepted cannabis as being a medicine. And so what they did, they were very clever. So William Hearst decided to do a propaganda campaign calling cannabis marijuana. And at the same time, there was a bit of fear of what was happening in Mexico and the Mexicans, and marijuana was a word that the Mexican used for cannabis. And so what they did was that they created a massive propaganda machine and brought out this new idea of a drug called marijuana. And at the time, the AMA, the American Medical Association, had no idea that they were talking about cannabis. In fact, no one knew what they were that they were talking about cannabis. Everyone just thought it was marijuana. And what they did was that they very sneakily drew in this idea that marijuana was cannabis. And then they said that in order to grow hemp, they were going to put a tax on all the farmers that were growing hemp or growing cannabis. And so suddenly in 1937, they brought out the Marijuana Tax Act, which is basically taxing anyone that was growing hemp or cannabis. And the moment you tax any crop, you kill it. And so suddenly cannabis or hemp just went really, really underground, and they stopped growing. It stopped being used. And at that time, with the gold rush and the fossil fuel rush, basically cannabis got completely buried under this propaganda campaign that it was a psychotic drug and it would make you go wild, and your daughters would screw and go crazy and lose their inhibitions. And because no one had ever understood propaganda before, that, like, the telecommunications was really only just starting at that point, people really believed it, and they really accepted it. And it was almost like the first ever propaganda campaign that really, really worked. And people got very afraid of cannabis. And we are still living under that shadow even now, even when we all know that it's like it's not real. The propaganda is still really there, and basically the brainwashing is still quite strong in some with some people, and actually really it really was just one big brainwash over cannabis. So it went underground in 1937 and it stopped growing, and in Europe it was still growing a bit. But then in 1942, when America came into the war, they reignited the hemp industry by for the war effort, because hemp is a fantastic crop for war, because it makes really super light clothing that keeps you very warm in cold weather and very cool in hot weather. It makes incredibly tough boots. And also it is it creates so many amazing products that are very good in a war situation. And so there was this Hemp for Victory campaign that was waged in 1942, and all the farmers started to grow hemp again, and hemp had a massive revival. But then when the Allies won, they made an agreement in 1952 that they would stop growing hemp and they would ban it again. And so they banned it, and they banned hemp again, and it's been banned ever since. And then in 1971, under the United Nations Misuse of Drugs Act, it was included in that, and suddenly it became what was considered a drug. And then we had this whole cannabis situation where this very powerful, important, and wondrous drug for humanity, our best friend in the plant world, suddenly became a deadly narcotic, and millions of people have been sent to jail over her, and it has really been a battle between those that know the truth and those that have the vested interests that don't want hemp out. And it really has been a politically charged campaign. It's all about money and economics. It's all about who controls the balances of power. It really is the emperor wears no clothes. The emperor isn't wearing no clothes. And the ones that are speaking out about it have really been demonized and jailed and turned into criminals. And things are changing, and they're changing rapidly now. And it's because we really need hemp to come back and harmonize our planet. So just like cacao, as I mentioned in the last webinar, has come to help harmonize and bring us back into nature, also has cannabis. And I commune with the plant medicines, and when I communed with cannabis and I asked her, why has this all happened? She said to me that the reason why she went underground was because she is still a free seed. She is still a free seed, that she doesn't belong to anyone. So most of agriculture now belongs to agri-corporations or Monsanto, and it's all about sovereignty over our seed. And at the moment, we still have sovereignty over cannabis. And so for me right now, what's really, really, really important and a really vital part now is that we maintain sovereignty over cannabis, that the people have sovereignty over the cannabis. She said to me that she is a plant for the people, and that actually everything that she offers is here to help the people get what they need from the land. And so we don't want it going into the hands of big corporations where they cream off all the profit from her, and we don't get to see the amazing abundance that hemp can provide for us, for the people. And she is really keen, hemp is really keen to remain a free seed, a free plant, so that her abundance can be enjoyed by the many and not the few. And everything on this planet has been commoditized. Everything is here to be bought and sold, including nature. And this is why we're in such a dire situation on the planet. Because when we commoditize natural resources, when we commoditize water, when we commoditize air, when everything's commoditized, we lose our connection with it. We lose our gratitude for it. And we forget how it's our birthright and it's our right to have these things. And so cannabis is still in that free energy, and that has that freeness about it. And what we do now is going to have massive implications on future generations. The decisions we make now with cannabis and hemp is going to have massive implications to future generations, because right now everything that fossil fuels makes, we can turn to a plant-based economy and make from hemp and other plant-based materials. We don't need to be using fossil fuels anymore. In fact, fossil fuels has created so much pollution on this planet, just so much pollution that the sooner we stop fossil fuels, the better. The sooner we return back to the land and plant-based materials, the better. And hemp is the perfect plant to kickstart it. So the stalk is really fibrous, and so it's a brilliant building material. A hectare of hemp can build a house. And not only that, but cement, also incredibly unsustainable, incredibly toxic. And the problem with cement is that it actually never dries. It just remains wet, which is why in winter it can get very cold and very damp. And it's very damp. And if you see, there's lots of mold on the walls in lots of old houses. This is because cement never dries. Whereas hemp, it takes 3 months to dry, but it dries all the way through. So it's incredibly versatile. So you keep very cool in summer and very warm in winter. And you can really maintain and sustain the temperature because it's dry all the way through. And some amazing buildings have been built with hemp. The Adnams built their brewery with hemp, and they were saving thousands of pounds a year because they were able to moderate their temperature by opening and closing windows because of it being in a hemp building. So can you imagine, we stop the cement and we start growing a hectare of hemp and building hemp houses, much more affordable, much more sustainable. And being in a hemp house, you feel so much more connected with nature. It's much more grounding, it's calming, it's much more peaceful. And, you have the added knowledge that it's a sustainable house. And it also makes amazing insulation as well, hemp. So you can build houses with it. It also, you can turn the seed into biofuels. So we no longer need to use fossil fuels. We could be using biofuels. We could be turning also the stalks into biofuels, into briquettes to burn in fires rather than cutting down any more wood. We can turn it into paper and stop all using trees for paper. The list is ended 25,000 uses. We can turn it into bioplastics, composites. A lot of the BMWs and Audis, they all using hemp composites now for their cars. And Henry Ford actually made his car from hemp. And actually, we could really be turning the hemp back into making sustainable and biodynamic cars that don't crumble when they're crashed, that have durability and they last a long time. So it can make 25,000 different products with hemp. The fiber also makes incredible clothes. One of the oldest clothes known to man, or no, to humans, is a silk kimono from Japan made from hemp. So the emperor wore. So you can really finely process it so that it becomes like silk-like. So the clothes are really breathable and keep you again warm in summer, warm in winter and cool in summer. And also we could stop using cotton, and cotton uses 87% of all pesticides and herbicides are used on the cotton industry. The cotton industry is so toxic. In fact, part of the Aral Sea, most of the Aral Sea in Russia has now been sucked up because of the amount of water that cotton needs. I mean, really, we need to be stopping cotton. Cotton is a luxury product. It's incredibly difficult to harvest, very, very labor intensive, very, very fragile plant, so needs loads of pesticides and herbicides and needs an incredible amount of water. I mean, if we could just stop using cotton right now and going into hemp clothes, it would immediately stop a lot of the pollution that's happening in our planet and using a lot of the groundwater that we really need to be protecting right now, because we're in a massive water shortage on this planet. And to be using water, really valuable water right now to feed our cotton madness, it's just a craziness. So so if we could, stop using cotton and go straight down to bamboo and hemp and other plant-based materials, that would really, really help us keeping and sustaining our water levels and our groundwater levels. But apart from that, the fiber and everything that the fiber can do. It is an amazing plant because it has a taproot, and the taproot digs like 3 meters down. And so it sucks up all the toxins from the earth. And when Chernobyl, after the terrible nuclear disaster at Chernobyl, hemp was grown all over Chernobyl, and it has cleaned the land of all nuclear waste. So it's an amazing plant for nuclear waste, for toxic waste. Just gets sucked up, and then you can turn those stems into products. So it's really, really versatile. It really cleans the soils. It also, if you grow for fiber, it grows about 5 meters, 2 to 5 meters tall. And so it's sucking up loads of CO2 out of the atmosphere. About 11 tons of CO2, a hectare sucks up about 11 tons of CO2 per year, which is about as much as one person consumes or uses up. So if we had a hectare, everyone grew a hectare of hemp, or was involved in a hectare of hemp or sponsored hemp, we would be sucking up that amount of CO2 that you were doing yearly. And it grows in 3 months. So it's a summer crop. So it doesn't interfere with any of the winter crops that farmers want to grow. So it's an amazing plant for sucking out the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, and also sucking the toxins out of the ground. Not only that, but it is an amazing plant because it has a fibrous wall. So it creates these fibers around the taproot, and so it really keeps the plant in place, and all the fibers connect with all the other fibers of the hemp plant. So it can sustain extreme weather conditions. It can sustain hurricanes and intense rains and storms, and huge winds. And so in Nicaragua, they did a hemp grow, and Hurricane Mitch hit Nicaragua, and something like 80% of the crops in Nicaragua failed because it was such intense weather. But the hemp crop survived because of the connection of these fibrous root balls that kept them all interconnected. So they remain solid in the ground. So it's brilliant for the climate change. It's a brilliant plant to sustain through different climate change. Not only that, but it doesn't need a lot of water. It needs a bit of water at the beginning, but it doesn't need a lot of water. So it really is a brilliant crop to maintaining water. It also doesn't need any pesticides or herbicides because it kills off its own weeds, because it grows very, very close together. It grows and it grows like trees. So it creates a canopy that actually stops the sun from coming through. So weeds and anything naturally die because they just don't get the sunlight. So it doesn't need a lot of chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides on the land. So it's a really easy crop to grow. And like I said, it's a summer crop. It relies on the sun to grow. And so the longer the sun days, that's how it feeds through sunlight. So it grows up to 5 meters. So you plant it in March, and we harvest around September, October time, and you're getting a full growth of about 5 meters in a very, very short amount of time. Again, very, very useful for sucking out CO2. So it's an incredibly sustainable plant. And I'd like to move now to the seed of the plant, because the seed is really an amazing nutritious seed. It's one of the most nutritious seeds on the planet. It contains all the amino acids that we need, and omega-3, 6, and 9. So it's a brilliant plant for vegans and vegetarians and people who can't, and also for us, actually, because the problem is we really need omega-3 and 6 and 9, and we usually get it from fish, but our fish is so polluted right now. Our oceans are horrifically polluted. And cod liver oil, I mean, you just wouldn't want to have any cod liver, because cods are in a terrible state and highly mercurized and polluted. So hemp is a fantastic and viable alternative to receive your omega-3, 6, and 9s. It's also massively high in protein, so it can give you, it really has a high protein content. And it's the closest thing to our own cannabinoid system, our endocannabinoid system. So hemp milk is the closest thing to breast milk, and it has, because it contains the same cannabinoids that we have within ourselves. So it's an amazing food. It comes in a very hard shell, so it can last up to 2 or 3 years in the hard shell. So fantastic for famine situations. It stores very well. And when you take the hard shell off and you have the seed inside the hemp heart, or the actual seed, it's very, very juicy and very high in vitamins and minerals. Again, the hard fiber, the hard seed around it is a very good fiber. Really helps you go to the loo. But the soft seed is very versatile and can be used in cooking and in smoothies and in cakes, where you really get a big dose of omegas, amino acids, and proteins. It can really boost health. And again, you can grow hemp for seed, for fiber, for seed and fiber. So you could, grow a hemp plant where you get the fiber, you turn the fiber into something, and then you eat the seed. So actually, everything you use in the hemp, it is used. You don't waste any of the hemp. You juice the leaves. You can juice the flower and the leaves to feed your endocannabinoid system. So I'll talk about this more in the cannabis medicine for the masses, but we have an endocannabinoid system that we only found out about 20 years ago. And this endocannabinoid system needs cannabinoids to feed it, and cannabis provides most, if not all, of those cannabinoids that feed our endocannabinoid system. Now, this endocannabinoid system has a receptor in the brain, and a receptor that feeds the autoimmune system. And anything that, when it's out of balance, it creates a lot of pain. The autoimmune system, if that's out of balance, it creates a lot of problems, and also when we're not feeding our brains. And so cannabis is an amazing plant to feed both our brains and our autoimmune systems. And I will talk about that in the next seminar on the 26th of July on cannabis medicine for the masses. So hemp really provides the flower, which provides the medicine. It provides the seed that provides the food, and it provides the stalk, the fiber that can turn into 25,000 uses. And you can make soap from it. You can make all sorts from it. So it is this really amazing, amazing wonder drug. So no wonder they wanted to ban it, because it's putting steel and fossil fuels and paper and nylons and chemicals and plastics all out of business. And I think it's about time too, because we're not leaving our planet sustainable for future generations. And it's every generation's purpose is to leave our planet safe for the next generations, healthy and vibrant. And right now, hemp is a brilliant crop that can really turn around some of the serious climate issues that we're facing, and some of the serious sustainability issues that we're facing. So how I got into hemp was I was looking for a solution to some of the issues that I was facing. I came across hemp. I started exploring and investigating hemp, and I suddenly realized how important it was. So I set up Hemp Global Solutions in 2006, and I started growing with research crops with De Montfort University, with Hadlow Agricultural College and Emerson College in 2007. And we looked at growing for seed and growing for fiber. The biggest problem that the hemp industry has right now is funding. There's no one wants to fund hemp. It's a very difficult crop to grow in a state that there's no help and support out there. So we still have our Conservative government having a very hard line on cannabis. They're totally against cannabis. They don't want to see it coming out of the B scheduling. But we have a shift happening with the Liberal Democrats and Labour to bring in a hemp economy and to bring in cannabis and legalize it. And I think if that happens, then actually it would really help to reduce some of this really horrific barriers in place to growing hemp. And there are a lot of barriers in place to growing hemp. One of them is that we need a home office license. I would say that was the craziest one. So we need a home office license to grow hemp. The problem with the home office license is that the home office knows nothing about agriculture. You would not grow a marijuana crop in the center of a hemp crop. Well, why not? It's pretty obvious. Because if you're growing for fiber, you're growing very close together because you want the stalks to grow long. If you're growing for seed, you're growing a very seedy, it's very seedy. If you're growing for cannabis, if you're going for medicine, you're growing big buds. Well, you would notice immediately if you had a big smelly, marijuana bud right in the middle of a fiber grow. I mean, so actually you would know immediately what you would be going for if you knew about farming. But these people don't know about farming. They're not aware of farming. And so they have these rules and structures that they need to go through. And yet they don't really understand. And so we have to get a home office license. We're very restricted where we can grow, how we can grow. We need to show ordnance survey maps. We need to pay money for the permit. I mean, it's really, really, really restrictive. And so that's one problem. The second problem is getting enough engineering and investment to start processing it. So at the moment, we bought out because we process on farm in Hempen and the organic farm, and so we had to buy our machinery from China. And to be honest with you, it's not brilliant. And what we would really need, what we could really do with, is igniting a hemp industry here in the UK. And what I mean by that is that we could create so many jobs with hemp. I mean, this is a people's plant. We could have hemp areas where, one area makes clothes, another area makes the seed, another area does the medicines, so that we can start creating and igniting an industry around hemp. Now, that's how it started in America. Basically, what happened in America was that people started growing cannabis to offset some of the nausea from cancer and chemo treatment. And they did it very secretly, and they did it underground. And more people did it, and it created communities, and those communities relied on cannabis, and until it got to a point where if they really banned cannabis, they would be destroying communities and people who rely on it for their livelihoods. Unfortunately, in England, we don't have the space to do secret grows and to secretly create a hemp industry. So we have to do it very openly, and it really needs people power. But it is an amazing opportunity for engineers, for people in industry to look at designing machinery that can help turn, stalk into fiber, to look at different ways of, reutilizing it for biodiesel. There's so much potential with hemp. And one of the reasons why hemp's coming back is because we so need to on the planet, but we're also in quite an important process now where we, the people, really put very clearly that we want cannabis to stay in our hands, that we have autonomy over and sovereignty over our seed and how we use her, because big businesses are waiting to swoop in and take over our hemp industry. You've got big tobacco just waiting in the wings. You've got investment bankers just seeing it as the next big commodity. And cannabis is the next big green rush. There is no doubt about it. It's the next big industry waiting to come along. But we need to do it sustainably. We need to do it so that we are creating a planet that is healthy for future generations, not to line our pockets so that we can fly around in big bloody huge jets and have big houses. It's got that crazy madness. It really just has to It has to end, and hemp has to be used in her sacred way. She is a sacred plant medicine. She is a really essential plant medicine, and she needs to be treated with the utmost respect so that we can get the best bounty from her, the best abundance from her, and the best uses out of her. If we give her over to big business, we are only going to get the crumbs of her. And that would just be a crime against humanity. It would be a crime against future generations. It would be a crime to allow that to happen. And that's why we have to take it out of its political environment and start actually utilizing her in the very practical way that she can help us in industry, and to really serve us as the plant medicine that she is. And I have my own little hemp myth, as you say, and my belief about hemp, because she's one of the oldest plants in our diet. She's much older than wheat. She's been in our diet for thousands. I mean, she's one of our first plants. And so my feeling is that she's an alien, or she comes from outer space, and she flies around space, and she comes across newly born planets. And what she does is she lands on the planet, and she sucks all the toxins out of the air and all the toxins out of the earth, and creates a livable, breathable planet in. And she is the queen crop. She is the mother crop. And so she makes the planet clean for animals and creatures to live on. And it kind of makes sense, because if you look at the dinosaurs, they're huge body masses. I mean, they're enormous. You would need incredible amounts of protein to feed an animal like that. But if you can imagine the hemp plant, I mean, it grows 5 meters in like 7 inches of soil. But can you imagine when the planet first came into a healthy state, when it was 7 feet or 8 feet of soil, how huge these hemp trees were, how huge and enormous these hemp trees could have been, and really sustaining a lot of the proteins that were needed for the dinosaurs. And the old saying, hemp, money grows on trees, comes from hemp, because the hemp was actually used to make money. The hemp fiber was used within the hemp note, within the banknote, because it didn't rot, it doesn't disintegrate, and if you it's incredibly tough. So hemp was actually knitted into the note, and that's why people say money grows on trees, because it grows on the hemp tree. So hemp has been a massive, important part of our economy, of our history, of power control, and now is kind of having her revival. But she needs to have her revival where it comes back to the people, where she remains within the people, and when she really we can use her to really mitigate some of the huge issues that we're facing right now on planet Earth. And the way we do that is by really, I think, coming together and becoming part, joining the Hemp Association, bringing all the disparate hemp communities together, so we become one voice in England, because we don't have the landmass here. We don't have the landmass of America. We don't have the climate of America. We don't have the climate of Europe. We're a very, very small island. We don't have much land, but we have great potential because we're a very small community. And if we all came together and understood the power of the plant, and understood the power and set it up that we still have sovereignty over the plant, and we keep the plant in our power, so we don't get some big agri-corp or Monsanto coming in and just taking her and abusing her and making profit from her. No one should be making profit from hemp. Hemp is a people's plant, and it should be plowed back into the community in order to support the community and in support for future generations. That's the power of hemp. And it grows all over Europe. I mean, hemp is big everywhere. The European laws are very different. They have when the Allies agreed to prohibit cannabis, they made a decision that every country would have its own law regarding cannabis. So any country can make up its own laws around cannabis and hemp. And so this is our opportunity now that we're autonomous from Brexit, that we're on our own as an island, that we really make some very clear laws around hemp that protects it from big business, protects it from Monsanto, protects it from the pesticide and industry and chemical industry, protects it from big tobacco that are really desperate to look for a new in now that tobacco really has lost a lot of its power, and very few people are actually using tobacco now, so they're all waiting in the wings. So it's Thomas Jefferson. One of his famous quotes was, "Hemp is of first necessity to the wealth and prosperity of the nation." Hemp is of first necessity to the wealth and prosperity of the nation. So this is our opportunity to really start utilizing hemp for the wealth and prosperity of Britain, to bring us back into balance, to bring us back into sustainability, and to really leave England in a very healthy and vibrant land for our generations that are coming after us. So has anyone got any questions about it? I'm just going through the readings. So the seeds are delicious. I think the seeds are delicious. Certainly, if you're really lacking omega-3, 6, and 9, if you're lacking proteins, it's a really easy way to get your nutrition in. It's a really easy way to get your proteins in. I have it in a smoothie. So again, I will give you my smoothie recipe, which is coconut water, organic banana, some maca, shelled hemp seed, and cacao. And so the maca is good for fertility, for vitality, energy. You've got the hemp seed, which is your omegas 3, 6, and 9s, all your amino acids, all your essential fatty acids. It's full of essential fatty acids, which are really important for healthy bone growth and healthy growth. And then you get your cacao, which is opening up your heart, releasing serotonin and dopamine into your brain, giving you a nice little uplift without making you feel exhausted. And the coconut water just gives it that nice sweet taste. And if you feel like you want a little bit of sweetener, I always put maple syrup in it, because I find that is a very good sweetener, because it doesn't peak you, and I don't do sugar. So maple syrup is a really nice, healthy alternative to sugar. And another thing about hemp, which is also really interesting, is that at the moment we have a really big issue. One of the biggest polluters on this planet is meat. Okay, meat is a huge polluter because it takes so much water and food to feed cattle. And we have an obsession. We're really addicted to meat. And the meat that we eat doesn't, the price that we pay for the meat that we eat doesn't actually synchronize with how much it actually costs environmentally to produce that meat. And this is a big problem, because what we're seeing in our food at the moment is that the food that we're buying isn't representative of how much it's actually costing the earth. And so if we all really paid what it really costs to eat meat, it would be unaffordable to eat meat every day. We would maybe eat meat once or twice a month. So it's a fantastic alternative to meat. Also, the hemp seed is a fantastic alternative to soya bean. And at the moment, a lot of the cattle are being fed soya bean, and it's really destroying the soil and the ground soil. And if we stopped growing soya bean for feed and started to grow hemp for feed, we could grow a hemp seed fiber. We could go for hemp seed and fiber. You would feed the seed to the stock, to the livestock, and you would turn the fiber into products. At the same time, you would clean the land, bind the land together so that you'd get a lot of worm growth and everything, and you'd suck loads of CO2 out of the atmosphere. I mean, it really is a no-brainer once you start really going into it. And the big problem is that It's very expensive, hemp, because we don't have an industry, because it's not subsidized. And everything in the food industry is subsidized, and farming is subsidized, and everything is subsidized. But if you don't subsidize an industry, and hemp is not subsidized, not only is it not subsidized, we have to pay a permit. We have loads of issues to grow hemp. We're unsustainable. We cannot compete in the market, and no one wants to invest in hemp because it's so because of the connotations, the political issues around it. And so what we really need is a big influx of investment to really start processing it in England. And that's what I'd really like to see. That's my vision, actually, is a really vibrant hemp industry here in the UK, where we have the decorticators here, where we have the machinery here, where we're growing with local farmers, where we're creating jobs, and we're creating an industry, and we're getting young people that smoke so much cannabis and have never been in a hemp farm before, getting into the hemp farm, harvesting the hemp, working in the hemp, getting involved in cannabis rather than smoking it, actually being involved in the whole industry. I mean, there's loads of potential to create a huge thriving industry using the young workforce that at the moment really don't have a lot of purpose and don't have a lot of prospects, a lot of them. And if we bring them back into farming, we bring them back into industry, hemp industry, they're actually doing something that they already have a connection with. It really is a really powerful time right now to be able to do that. And again, it's very much about again stopping all the soya beans on the planet right now. Are about 85% of them are genetically modified. In fact, most soya beans now are genetically modified. That's just because of the cross-pollinations of genetically modified foods. It's very difficult to stop cross-pollination. So most of even if it's organic, might have a trace of GMO in it. But hemp is not genetically modified yet. Hemp is still hemp, and we need to keep it like that. We need to keep it in its purity. We need to be able to feed our livestock with it. We need to come back into balance on the planet, within ourselves, with Mother Earth and nature. And these plant medicines are here to bring us back into balance. So whereas ayahuasca wakes us up to the fact that we're not in balance, wakes us up to helping us reach that balance, cacao and cannabis are really here to actually put that balance into practice, to actually find that balance within, so we can be more balanced without. And if we don't find balance soon, we really are creating massive amounts of problems for future generations that are coming. And even now, even for the next generation, we have a serious issue of water on this planet, and no one's addressing it. But we're going to have water wars very shortly on this planet if we don't stop some of the practices. And one of them is stopping eating meat and eating very high level or high needing foods and crops, because that's using up a load of really precious water. So the best way to eat meat, seeds, is to get the shelled seed. That's the easiest way to eat the seed. If you have a hard seed, they are quite hard even if you soak them, but you can make hemp milk from them. So what you do is you get the seed, you soak it at night, and you blend it up with a blender, and that makes and then you squeeze it out in a gauze, and that makes really good hemp milk. But if you want to use, and I put it on salads, and it gives a little crunch to salads. But it's more versatile if you don't use it without the shell on it. When you get the shelled hemp seed, then it's much more juicier, and it's much more versatile, and you can use it in cooking. Though I wouldn't suggest cooking it at very heat levels, because like most oils, it gets carcinogenic if it's heated at a certain point. So I would only cook very lightly with it. But what I do is I sprinkle it on salads, I sprinkle it on foods at the end. So I use it as a kind of a topping, and that really helps. So does anyone have any questions they would like to ask me before I end this webinar? Anything they would like to know about hemp? So if you're wanting to buy hemp seeds, the website address for our hemp cooperative is www.hempen.co.uk. So I'm just putting it here in the link. So we do shelled hemp. It's all organic. We do shelled hemp. We do hemp seed oil. We do CBD oil, and we do massage oil, and we do whole hemp seeds. So if you go on our website, you can buy from there. Like I said, it's all organic. We grow it on farm. We harvest it. We're going to have a big hemp harvest festival this year. For those of you who want to go into a hemp field and actually experience hemp, this is a real life. This is really this is really happening. We're going into our 3rd year. We need all the support we can get. We need as much help we can get. We need people buying our products really more than anything, and they're slightly more expensive because that's how much real food costs. Unfortunately, you know, when you really pay the true cost of food, it costs a bit more, but by costing a bit more, you are supporting a cooperative, you are supporting local agriculture, you are supporting British farming, and you're supporting a group of visionaries that really believe in the future of hemp. And that is so much, so very powerful. We do wholesale at Hempen. We do farmers markets. We do 7 farmers markets. We do events. We were in Glastonbury this weekend. It might be in Reading. If you go online, you'll see where we are. We're going to be much bigger next year. We do hemp burgers, so we do some festivals with the hemp foods as well, so you can try the burgers. And a pound of beef requires nearly 2 gallons of water. A pound of beef, nearly 2 gallons of water. And that's for the growing of the food and also the growing of the cow. So if we had a pound of hemp seed instead, we wouldn't be using hardly any of that water. Really, really important. Yes, a hemp cookbook hopefully will be on its way. There's lots of versatile things we can do. You can make salad dressings from it. It really is an amazing, amazing crop. I would love to do a hemp talk. A TED talk of hemp. The more we can get hemp out there. I've been talking about hemp for the last 11 years. I talked at the Royal Geographical Society on hemp, and tried to get the Royal Geographical Society on side about hemp. I'm part of the Museum of Modern Nature, which is run by the Wellcome collection. That's going to be shown at the end of June. On the 20th of June is being launched, and the Wellcome collection have asked people to bring in an object within nature that they really feel connected to, and I'm one of their experts on the panel. And of course I brought in my hemp seed, so I did a talk there about the importance of hemp, and I'm really feeling an urgency now to get the message out so that we don't have big biotech companies coming in from America and taking over what is potentially our profit and our abundance and our sovereignty over our health and well-being. And this is really an important time on the planet now to keep us connected to our land and to our seed and to our farming. And so the vision that Hempen have and that I have is that we have a really vibrant cooperative model that goes all across the country and creating jobs, and where people can grow small or big amounts of hemp seed and hemp fiber, and be part of a growing movement of hemp, and be part of a really important solutions-based economy and industry, so that we can keep this planet healthy and vibrant for future generations. So thank you again, everyone, for listening and joining in. Really, really appreciate you all coming and hearing my wisdom and experience, really, of hemp. The next talk I'm doing is in 2 weeks' time, is on Chiricsanungo, and the lesser medicines, plant medicines of the Peruvian Amazon. And I chose that because people are really obsessed with ayahuasca. Guys, ayahuasca this, ayahuasca that. The reality of it is that ayahuasca is an amazing plant. She is the grandmother plant, but there are a lot of really amazing plants in the Amazon, and I wanted to open it up a little bit, open up the discussion a little bit more on what other plant medicines are available and what they're good for, so that anyone who's been drinking ayahuasca or been drinking a lot of ayahuasca or is interested in understanding more about plant medicines of the Amazonian rainforest, this is a great opportunity for you to listen and hear that. And that's on the 5th of July. So on Wednesday, the 5th of July, I will be doing that. And then on the 26th of July, I will be doing the final one, cannabis medicine for the masses. So thank you again for joining us. Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about Chiric. We could really grow enough hemp to replace crop. Yes, definitely. We could grow loads about hemp. So if you go onto the Hempen link, we will very soon, we're putting it together now, the whole hemp festival. I'm going to be doing a harvest a celebration as well over the hemp, over the autumn equinox. So that weekend, I'm going to put together a little hemp a festival, a hemp harvest, where we'll be drawing in the autumn equinox and doing a celebration on the autumn equinox. And we'll be sitting around the campfire and be doing loads and loads of stuff around bringing in new energies for the coming autumn and winter, and bringing in a whole shamanic element of that. And having been in the hemp fields all day, it's going to be very, very exciting. So we will have a big hemp party in September over the hemp harvest. But there will be a possibility from the middle of August until the middle of September, until the hemp harvest, to actually come to the farm and help us a hemp harvest. And that's coming together now. We're putting together a structure. So please stay in touch with me, Rebecca at RebeccaShaman.com, or at Hempen. If you keep on checking out the website, all the information will go in there. I will also be sending out a letter from this webinar list and from other lists, giving very clear instructions and everything about the hemp harvest later on. One other thing I'd like to ask is if anyone is available. We need some volunteers now on the farm. We need some volunteers to work from Tuesday to Friday in processing. So what you would do is you come on farm, you stay on the farm. We have caravans and tents and compost toilets, and we need some help because we've got a lot of festivals coming up. We need some help with some volunteering. So if you are available in the next 2 or 3 weeks to give some time up from Tuesday to Friday, what we can offer you is food, loads of hemp food, good energy, being around the hemp plants, and free accommodation to come and help us with some processing. That would be really, really, really helpful to us. Please, I've given my email up there, Rebecca at Rebecca Shaman. If you are available, or you know anyone who's got some time out, who's got some holiday time, who wants to sit and relax and connect and see what we do with the hemp, please get in contact with me. It's from a Tuesday to Fridays. On the weekends is the time off for the Hemp and Cooperative. So it's during the week. Anyone who knows anyone would be really great to come along and actually see what we're doing. We're a living, breathing, experiencing hemp and cooperative, and it takes a cooperative, it takes a community to really grow hemp. And that's why I love hemp, because we are a community, we're growing our community. So do come, be a part of it, get involved. We need more and more people to get involved, and let's really create a vibrant hemp industry. Let's see England covered in hemp, and let's leave this planet for future generations that's living and vibrant and healthy and breathing, and so they can enjoy all the goodness that we have also been able to enjoy. So wishing you all a wonderful rest of the evening, many blessings to you all, and looking forward to reconnecting to you on the 5th of July for the Chiricsanungo and other plant medicines of the Peruvian Amazon. Thank you very much.